Okay. So hello everyone. Thanks so much for joining me today for I guess the first biweekly meeting for the Entity Custom Resource Definitions Google Summer of Code project. So since this is the first meeting, I'll quickly go over sort of what I hope to achieve and the purpose of such meetings. So each of these meetings are designed to be about 30 minutes long, and it's really a way for me to provide an update, either live or asynchronously via recording on sort of the on my progress with the project so far, as well as the space for discussion on various things. With regards to the project. And I think it'll also be like a good way to document my work as the summer progresses. So that's sort of the purpose of these meetings. As I mentioned, today's the first one, June 14th, and this, I'm calling it the coding period kickoff, which is sort of, the exciting part of the whole project where I'll begin the implementation of the project itself. So today there's sort of three main things I want to go over. The first being just a quick overview of, or just a quick review of the community bonding period, which was the last few weeks, as well as some of the administrative things. This part might be a bit boring, but just some documentation as well as some other places where either mentors or everyone else can stay updated with my progress and sort of see the actual the code itself. And then finally, what I'll be doing the next couple weeks before the next meeting, which is the implementation of the service level indicator, indicators operator, and custom resource definition. And I actually do have some questions about this as well that perhaps we can discuss either in this meeting or on Slack as well. Okay. And of course, feel free to like stop me or if there's anything, any questions or any other things sort of we can discuss as we go. So the first thing is with regards to the community bonding period. So I spent a lot of my time in the last couple of weeks setting up a lot of the meetings. Big shout out to Suraj for help with setting those up. So setting up meetings such as this one, like means of communication as well as documenting progress, which I'll go over in the administrative section, as well as I spent some time learning the Operator SDK framework, which is what the project is built using, and of course Cube Builder, which is sort of the underneath the hood of Operator SDK, what it uses. And also I spent some time elaborating on the SLI CRDs, or CRD and operator. I guess this is the controller ticket, which is kind of in progress. I will go over kind of it right now, but I do have some questions about that later that I think maybe will help me sort of actually really hash this out. But that's kind of how I've been spending my time. As a quick review, like it's a little bit, I'm a little bit behind in terms of what I wanted to achieve in the community bonding period. But I also, in my schedule, put in a week buffer just in case there were some other things I couldn't achieve in that time. So if you'll notice in sort of my timeline, the very first task, which is this, is actually 3 weeks instead of 2 weeks. And that was just in case something came up and or if I needed a little bit more time, for example, to elaborate on the ticket itself. Yeah, so that's a quick update. Is there any comments or questions about that? Just feel free to chime in or put in the chat if so. If not, I'll move to sort of the next section, which is just an overview of where a lot of the documentation lives, so that even outside of these 2-week meetings, as well as, I mean, obviously you're always free to like ping me on Slack or comment on any of like the GitHub issues. But just in case, just for some like asynchronous updates, I did create some documentation, which I'll go over really quickly. And in fact, you can find them all pinned on the Keptn GitOps operator working group channel, specifically on, I guess here. So basically everything kind of, the main sort of documentation is this link right here, which is the main project page that lives in the community repository. Some important links are at the bottom, specifically the references. So the project repository itself, which is the prototype GitOps operator that I'll be working off of. There's the project page on the GSOC website. I don't know if this will get updated very much, but this is something that's there as well. One thing I added that might be new is like a daily asynchronous stand-up update. So this is actually a wiki on the Keptn GitOps operator repo, which has sort of my daily progress, just so that I can just for my own documentation's sake, as well as to keep everyone updated on, just as a way to like quickly reference what I've been working on sort of a daily basis. So I started that on June 12th, which was the beginning of the coding period. So you'll see like each of the days will have what did I do yesterday, what will I do today, and what are my blockers. And I'll do this basically every day until the end of, or as almost every day until the end of, I guess, the conclusion of GSOC.
Okay. Can you mention people if you need help in the wiki itself? Or do you have to like write that you're blocked on something and then link a Slack thread or something similar?
Yeah. I don't know if I can. That's a really good question.
I guess the question I want to ask is, do you want to do that? And if the answer to that is yes, you would like to mention people or link to different issues. Another idea could be to have the same format, but in a GitHub issue, because you can mention people there.
Oh, I see. So kind of like an evolving issue.
Yeah. So just add an extra comment every day.
I see. That's a good idea too, actually. Yeah, I wonder if there's.
Yeah, you can create any issue and just edit it out because it's a template. So you can just start with, let's say, a bug report. I mean, this is, of course, if you want to do it, but just start with bug report and remove the title and all the formatting, extra formatting that you get. And
right.
Just call this whatever issue you want to call it and keep on updating it.
I see. I wonder.
And once you're done, just close it up. Yep, go on.
I was gonna say, I wonder if there is a way to ping someone via this. Let me double check. Oh, probably not, because it's just.
It's a wiki, right? So
yeah,
I don't think we have a feature. The nice thing about this is you can like jump to each like day by just looking at the right sidebar.
Yeah, yeah, I think yeah, that's true too. I kind of like the wiki format because of exactly your point where like you can, because I think this will get very, very big.
Yeah.
Like it'll be for yeah. So maybe especially yeah, I think this might be a better means of documentation, but I think like that's so like what I've been basically doing. So for example, I had a blocker here. I just like would ping Oleg on Slack and like he would help me. I think that's
Okay.
okay for now.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll leave it to you. Just throwing out an idea I had.
I see. Yeah, that's yeah. I wish you could do that actually. But awesome. Um, yeah. So that's kind of the stand-ups themselves. I don't know if this will be super useful for the mentors, but I
Oh,
think
I think it will be. You kind of see what we'll be able to get a glimpse into what you're doing. Obviously, I think I'm not sure if the mentors are going to check this every day, but
right.
I think this would be a really good thing. If you having this publicly is a good thing in my opinion, because when you are like applying for jobs and stuff, then the effort kind of shows up in all of this. So it kind of shows you as a good communicator, and that's why I think we should have it publicly like this.
Awesome. Okay, sweet. Yeah, that's good to hear. So yeah, definitely we'll be updating this on the daily, or as much as I can on the daily.
It's for
Um,
you. I mean, I'm not going to look so much at it. So it's basically
for sure, for sure. I think it's just a good way for me to like stay accountable as well. Just with like everything's asynchronous and sort of remote and even in different time zones. So I thought this was a good way to make sure that I keep myself accountable also on top of like the documentation and keeping everyone updated. Awesome. Yeah, so that is the daily stand-ups. There's also here a link to the calendar. Um, of course, this has all of the meetings, including our stand-ups. A lot of other GSOC meetings as well, which is awesome. Um, and then the weekly meeting minutes. So once again, this page sort of mirrors a lot of what's on this message right here. But I would say like this would be the most sort of up to date place to go. But I don't foresee much change here other than like recordings being added. So obviously the meeting minutes, which is the document that we're currently on, as well as I guess what I want to segue next into is sort of the project board, which has like a Kanban board of issues that I'll be working on or that I'll be like elaborating on further. So I guess that's a good segue to the next point, which is like what I'll be doing in the next couple weeks, which is implementation of the SLI operator, as well as its custom resource definition. So I've created a GitHub issue for that here. And as you can see, it's in terms of the actual API definition and the controller itself, it's actually not super complicated. Mostly because one, the SLI, the Keptn SLI's, the Keptn SLI configuration is really composed of two things, which is the configuration for the provider itself, as well as the indicators, which are just like the queries for each indicator. So so this API definition basically mirrors that and will live in specifically in here as well as in here. So my controller will be added to the controllers here, as well as the definition type, or the entity type will go in here, which is actually really quite easy to do via operator SDK. So obviously I'll be leveraging that a lot. Yeah, so the ticket, I guess, is part of the project board, as well as is an issue on the project repo. Some things I still need to finish elaborating on is with regards to the SLI provider. I'm a little bit, because I know there's currently, or from the documentation, it appears that there's currently 2 providers being supported. In addition to, you can create custom, like you can also have like custom SLI providers for the SLIs. So for the API definition itself, I'm a little bit, I guess I need to figure out how I can make that flexible enough, as well as still make sense for this resource itself.
I had a question around this actually. So
yep.
When we have a why do you say that the SLI spec is dependent on SLI provider? There's some binding in there.
So from, I guess, my understanding of like an SLI, or like my understanding of I guess the indicators of the SLI is that they're specific to the queries themselves are specific to the provider. So they're actually like not necessarily defined by Keptn, but by, for example, like Dynatrace or Prometheus.
Okay. So
like, yeah.
As far as I know, the SLI config, that is the SLI spec, is sort of independent. What changes is what goes inside the indicator. And I'm just trying to find something that would confirm our assertion. That is my assertion, that that is how it is. But I think we do not have a dependency on provider, in the sense that when you create an SLI resource, the provider specific stuff goes into indicators, which is a list of key value pairs, like you've correctly written. But I don't think we have a provider specific configuration.
I see. So you're talking about like sort of this component right here?
Yeah, so the query key, so depending on what you're using, for example, Prometheus has a different way of writing the query.
Right.
Dynatrace has a different way. Datadog has a different way. Symologic has a different way.
Right.
That's the change goes into indicators, which is a key and a value, which is string. So that the string is what keeps on changing, but everything else, there's nothing specific to provider as far as I know.
I see.
And I'm going to see if I can grab some code so that we are 100% sure that's how it is. But I'm pretty sure that's how it is.
Right. I think.
So the reason I'm saying this is because that would vastly simplify our implementation. Because if you go in, if it turns out that it's dependent on SLI provider, then you'll have to handle cases for different providers. And I don't think the SLI config was designed like that.
Right. I think the part maybe that I was confused about then is specifically with regards to, so I know for like, yeah, I think for like the SLI, so like, I guess when you're like adding an SLI to Keptn, it's like part of it is you have to specify like the actual configuration of the provider.
Can you open that file?
Yeah.
Okay. Spec version, attach rules. Is that an SLI? I'm confused now. Can you go back?
Yeah. So like, yeah,
And
there's
what
like,
is SLI? Can you open that? Yeah. So this is SLI. I'm not sure what the configuration dynatrace.conf.yaml is.
let me just double check where I saw this.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm going to find a reference for SLI for us. Yep.
Oh,
Looking at.
yep. Sorry, go for it.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was just saying, like, yeah, I think what I mean by this. So maybe I should rename this to you. Is I was kind of thinking about like, yeah, there's like a resource like a resource SLI
Right.
config YAML,
Mhm.
and that's different from like the actual SLI configuration with the indicators, I think. So like I think, and I thought, and I was, yeah, like I guess my impression was that this was basically whatever the provider configurations. Like I think some of this is just like environment uh, variables.
Yeah, that's what I think too. So I think the SLI is independent of everything. I'm going to dig in through the Keptn code and find us a hard proof for that. And
Okay.
we can
Yeah.
continue on with.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I'll definitely look at. Yeah, this is something that I'll definitely look more into as well. But yeah, so that's sort of the API definition. I'm a little bit. I still need to elaborate more on the actual status that will be used for the controller. I almost think that it's kind of a not. I guess like because Keptn itself won't handle the status or the health of the SLI providers themselves. So then I don't see any reason why the controller should reconcile that. So in that case, this might actually not do much. But I think either way, it should like there's the I guess upon like initialization, it should check for the SLI configs in the manifest anyways. For um, for like the GitOps operator.
Right.
Yeah, so that's sort of what I have for this ticket. I don't know if it will be, again, like I gave myself an extra week for the very first task. So technically I guess in my initial timeline, I have 3 weeks to finish this, but I don't think I'll take that long. So my hope is that by the next meeting, I'll be able to sort of demo the CRD and an operator.
Cool.
Which yeah, I guess in a couple weeks. Yeah, I did have some questions. I guess this one we just dealt with, which is like the differences. I guess it's not well, yeah, like configuration details.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the SLI is independent of the provider.
I see.
The reason I say this is because Dynatrace, Prometheus, and any other custom integration is going to be implemented by different people. So
Right,
if you're using the same SLI config, and if it has something that is specific to one integration, for example, let's say there's a field specific to Dynatrace, that means Prometheus service will be using the same struct essentially
right,
because it's SLI. And then it would
right,
have to care about what to do with that field, which doesn't sound like good design to me. So I'm
right,
pretty sure we're not using anything like anything which is specific to the provider goes inside the indicator, which is the query that
right.
is specific to the provider.
I
And that's
see.
what you saw in SLI.yaml. So we don't have to care about the provider.
Okay, nice. Yeah, so in that case, yes, this will be even simpler. because I can basically rip this out. Although I feel like, yeah, I think, yeah. I guess if anything, if there is some other configuration specified for whatever reason for the provider itself, then that could almost be like a separate resource. So that
I don't think that would happen, right? Because SLI
right,
and SLO are like independent things, as in they're not tied to a provider. The construct themselves are independent. It
right,
indicates service level indicator and service level objective.
right.
So that should be independent of the whatever SLI provider you use.
Okay,
Um,
perfect.
so I don't think that's going to happen in the future. But if it does, then for some reason it can be treated as a separate thing. I don't think you have to care about it now.
Okay, nice. Yeah, so that's that makes things even simpler then. Okay, and then I guess this one. So yeah, this part I was a little bit confused in terms of the implementation itself. Um, and of course, I know. I guess like Thomas would know best. But I was just wondering how like the different stages are dealt with, because I know with regards to the actual repository where you specify the configurations, you can actually, there's like a base, and then inside of the stages directory, you can actually overwrite the base. So I was wondering like how that's done in the code.
The question is, what happens when you override something in a stage, and where does that happen in the code?
Yeah, or does that even happen inside of the operator itself?
That's a good question, because if you do an add resource using Keptn CLI, it makes a call to the API, and it kind of overrides the resource for you.
Right.
So if this operator is also, if it's doing the same thing, and I feel like it's kind of doing the same thing, so we should not have any logic for overriding stuff. But that being said, let's check if we can find something. The stage schedule control. Was a question around adding a resource, or was it around adding a stage?
Like adding, I guess like adding a resource maybe to like a specific stage, for example. Because I know
I
like
don't think we have I don't think we have a controller for that, interestingly. Maybe I don't know about that controller, because if you look at it, it's Keptn instance, Keptn project, schedule exec, Keptn sequence, Keptn execution, Keptn service deployment should be out in stage.
right.
So I'm not
I guess
sure.
I guess it wouldn't be done via a controller, because the controller is just trying to like reconcile specific states, like the actual states. And let me just think about my question. Yeah, I don't know why I asked this. Because yeah, now that I think about it,
I think that might be because we have to kind of we need this functionality where if there's some change in the SLI's custom resource, we want to update the resource in the upstream repository, for example,
right?
Or in the configuration service repository. And I think that's where the question probably came from. But
Yeah.
Keptn overrides the resource, as far as I know.
I
To
see.
do an add resource, but this would be I guess the question here is how do you do that, right? How do you upload a resource? Okay, I think there should be some information around it in stage controller.
Oh, by the way, we are a bit over time. In case people have to hop off. I mean, I'm free to stay a bit longer, but otherwise, yeah, like we're definitely a bit over on the 30 minutes. Just an FYI.
So yeah, the check shipyard, the create shipyard, compose shipyard. Okay, let's get compose stage and I think we need to dig into the code of how we are adding stages.
For
There
sure,
should be
for sure.
something similar.
Yeah, I think if maybe I'll just quickly ping Thomas on the working group because I feel like he'll know pretty quickly.
We have a client. Let me ping you in Slack. There's a thread. So we have a client to update the shipyard. So we need to figure out if we can use the same client, because I kind of feel like we should be able to use the same client. If you look at line, what is that? Yeah, line 29, could not update status of shipyard. So
I see.
it's, and if I remember correctly, I think Thomas also said we kind of have that the library to list update stuff, and I can see that we're using a client for that. Just need to figure out if the client also supports adding resource, which I think it should. And if it does, then we just use that.
Okay, nice. Okay, I'll definitely take a look at that. So this will actually. Okay, so this is the utility for that. Okay, nice. Yeah, I mean, otherwise, I think that's everything that I wanted to go over. I mean, thanks everyone for joining me, either live or asynchronously via video. Is there anything else anyone else wants to go over quickly before we conclude the recording?
I'm good.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, if not, thank you everyone. And I will quickly, oh, thank you, Maya. I'll quickly conclude the recording here.